Okay, that's working perfectly. So it's kind of funny to see earlier this picture of Sam Wagstaff in this beautiful loft and see all the pictures on the floor, beautifully dressed and on this chair. And of course, when you have children, there's none of that stuff you can do. We started with our pictures. They were initially all hung very high up, and slowly, as the kids got older, they got lower, lower, lower. And this is as low as we can go now. So let me start and going through it. This is just a section of it, and on the left side, these are all. Let me see. Yeah. Oh, so these are Stuyckens, and on the very top, and the bottom half is Du Bois. This is, as you can see, more Du Bois and Stuycken. This is a group of Funkes. We have a large collection of Funkes. This is a small selection of it, which is one of our favorites. This is another room of the house, which is, as you can see, there's pictures everywhere, and as high as they can go, and as low as they can go. This is actually Mark Cohen from Philadelphia. Yeah. This is on the far side is James Welling and Matthew Brandt, the very young photographer. On the right side, they're all Robert Franks. It's a small grouping of the Robert Franks we have. Some more of them, some of the more well-known ones. These are Elga Essers. They're pretty recent pictures, a couple years. This room has it's basically something we are starting to collect for a couple years now. It's a subjective camera, and that is originated by Otto Steinert, and it's a group that is right after World War II. It's a group of photographers that basically spread all over the world. There were participants from Japan, Argentina, Brazil, Callahan on the right top, and all over Europe. And this is a group that didn't last very long. After 5 years, they were kind of exhibiting together. They started splitting up and went their own direction. This is the whole group on the top is going up the stairs is Ludwig Windstasser, which is one of the members of the Subjective Camera Group and Photo Forum. This is our daughter's room. She started her own little collection. I mean, she had the choice of picking the ones she wanted to have in her room, and she picked, of course, all the colorful ones. This is still in her room. This is in our bedroom as a Coppitz picture, a very large print and a Stieglitz on the next to it. All these pictures, and again, this is a section of it, they're all Driticals, and we are, as Inge already told you before, we fell in love with the whole new modern photography in Czechoslovakia, which is started around late 20s, early 30s. These are, it's a Westin in the middle, a Rudimine on the left, and an Adabris on the right, and two Sudeks on the very bottom. And this is just a little bit of an overview of the type of photography we collect and have been collecting for the last 35 years or more, something like that. All right, and now back to Denise.
I think that very quick trip through part of the de Bont's house gives you some idea of why I thought they would be ideal panelists. We've talked about collecting photography. We've talked about who collected photography. We've talked about why people collected photography. We've talked about the growth of the market. But now we're talking to the people who count. And I've been to Jan and Tricia's house. It is absolutely as amazing as it looks. And I will say that for me, and I think probably my prejudices were pretty clear when I gave my talk, they represent the best type of photography collector. They have an inquisitive temperament. They have their own very distinct eye. They have respect for the print. If you have a chance to go to their house, that is evident in spades. The quality, the print quality of the prints they own, the subtle differences between prints, and the context in which the prints were made. And so right now, I get to ask things that I've never really asked you guys. And I'd like to start by asking you when you started and why photography.
You want to start? Okay. Actually, you want? Yeah. It is. I started initially. I've been in images my whole life. I started as a director when I was 16, and then started in photography for a while, and then I found photography too slow and a little bit boring as the pictures didn't go fast enough, and then went to film and did that for most of my life. And during that time, during making all those bigger movies, I got really kind of disinterested with those bigger movies because they went so fast and I could never look at a single picture. So I went back to photography, and that's when I decided to really that this is what we should collect. And one of the first things we collected, I mean, what made me, I think there it is actually pictures by Eugene Smith. And there's a little story attached to this. I was in Santa Fe, and I had seen a show by him, and it was quite amazing. There was a little gallery that sold his work, so I asked him, can I see some of his work? He said, no, I don't have anything here, but I'll show you some if you have 10 minutes. We walked to around 2 blocks down and into a basement, and the basement was actually a darkroom. It was Eugene Smith's darkroom, old darkroom. And the floor was covered with hundreds and hundreds of photographs, all printed by him. And I was totally blown away, of course. But what I noticed, and what was so special about seeing all that, is that I became aware how hard he worked to get a print right. From the Spanish series, and especially the Wake photograph, I don't know if any of you remember that, he made about 150 prints that I could roughly count before he approved it. And so each time he made one and he didn't like it, he put a big cross over it, or he threw it on the floor, or ripped it apart, and it was pretty amazing to see the enormous time it took to really in the process of the photograph. I mean, not just the making of. For him, the photograph was not finished till he actually processed it in the darkroom, and he could do it with his hands, so he got the totally perfect blacks and etc. etc. Now, there were all of those pictures, those damaged pictures, I didn't want to take, of course, and I knew there were. I found some other pictures, which were actually pictures of the kids, and these were the only ones that were signed. And I knew then already, of course, that a signed picture is better than a non-signed picture, but it was also not damaged, and it was totally like in perfect condition. There were a couple. There's another one, really, and ultimately he became quite famous, not only for his documentary photography, but also for the picture of the 2 kids walking away in the forest, which became one of his iconic images. So that's basically how we started. Like now, when we collect photography, we should start with the beginning. We have to choose for a period, and we said let's just start at 1900. It's a good number, and then go upwards and see how far we get. And that's basically how it happened. I mean, because I felt we had to really find out what photography is all about, and really feel about how difficult it is for them to make a fantastic print. And you start to learn about it. The more you read, the more you talk to people. I got very excited about that. And this is basically how we slowly started the collection, going first backwards and then forward again. You want to add to that?
I did want to go first because I knew his answer would be more interesting than mine, but I think I started with books. Thank you, Maria, for reminding me last night that the first photography book I ever saw was called In This Proud Land. It's an FSA photography book, and it has a picture of Migrant Mother on the cover. And I remember in 7th grade writing an essay. The sentiment was something like, when I grow up, I want to be Dorothy Lang. Cut to college, I started taking photography classes, and I clearly did not become the next Dorothea Lang. But I looked at a lot of books, mostly New York School and maybe more FSA photographs. And when I met Jan, he'd already started collecting. And I remember you inviting me to your house, not to see his etchings, but to see his photographs. And you had some Walker Evans. And I remember thinking, this is the first man I've ever met who has Walker Evans, and I'm probably the first woman he's ever met who can recognize them. So here we are.
And what year was that?
Maybe 80, 85, 86, something like that.
And so what year was the Smith? I'm not on, sorry. I'm on now. Yeah.
No, that was in the mid-'70s. I came to the United States around that time, and being, of course, in the film business, I always loved photography, and I started moving around, and that's where the decision was made to really start seriously collecting.
Can you each perhaps talk about one or two photographs that, I don't know how I would pick a favorite from this group. Is that a possibility to even do?
You should start to.
Yeah, full disclosure, I thought you were going to ask this question, and I think I changed my mind about 15 times in 1 week. But, sure, why not?
It's the whole bottom half there is the price.
This was my first auction alone. I think I'd been to 2 other auctions with Jan, and I think I was so nervous, I actually started bidding against him. But I went to New York, my maiden voyage, to buy specifically the Pierre Dubreuil self-portrait right there, and that was about 20 years ago, I think. And at the time, I didn't know that much about him. I knew he was highly regarded. I knew it was rare. I think it is the only oil print that exists. And I just found it so captivating, kind of surreal, but extremely direct. And I think at the time I was struggling a little bit because I kind of cut my teeth on New York school photography, and I would look at these beautiful pictorial images and think, oh, the image is so beautiful, but they just didn't grab me. I think I found them maybe too romantic. I think I've come around a little bit since then, but at the time, that's how I felt. And I think this is one of the first times I saw a photograph where it's kind of ironic because I think the thing that I liked about it is the exact same thing that people didn't like about it at the time, because people were rejecting pictorial photography, but I think it was the first time I really, really got it. And it's one of those photographs that I always kind of check in with. I think there's 40 photographs in that entry, and it's the one that I always look at when I go by. So we're on very close terms.
And I would say from my point of view, what I know about Dubreuil is that I think you picked someone who is pictorialist, but it is pictorialism with a total modernist bent. I have to say, being in the de Bont's house, seeing there, I think for me, walking in the door and seeing a wall of Jaromir Funke it's just breathtaking. And seeing walls like this, you don't have many opportunities to do that, even in a museum. So now, could you talk about some of your favorites?
Yes, some of my favorites are Funkes, but I could not pick one. It was just too difficult because I liked them all, kind of. And so I picked something else instead. So I picked a Sudak. And the Sudak hangs there on the bottom. Let me go, those two. And we have a really nice collection of Sudaks, and I visited his studio in Prague, and it's a tiny, tiny, tiny little studio, and I read all about him, and I knew how his prints were made, and especially the one on the left is a pigment print, on the right is his gelatin silver print, and he was always struggling how to get the emulsion on the pigment print, and knowing that, I was trying to find for many, many years to get actually the same image in 2 versions, the pigment print as well as the silver gelatin print. And I thought it was so fantastic that it took us like maybe 15 years or so. And we finally found him in Berlin. And the differences between pigment and gelatin silver is, of course, that it not only it flips the frame, but it's like the more painterly the picture has become. It's so funny. The right side, the gelatin silver, is the harder side of Sudak, and the left side, the pigment print, is the softer side of Sudak. And it's kind of nice to see those both represented in this kind of, not really a diptych, but it's those two pictures.
Yeah, and we found them both at the same time, so it was an expensive trip, yes.
Could you talk, since you've both been in the business for a long time, so to speak, could you talk just a little bit, each of you, about what changes you think have occurred in the market besides the fact that it's gotten so expensive in some cases? More than the $20,000 difference, I would say.
Maybe one thing is, and I think everyone here is aware of that, when we first started collecting, we collected specifically from photography galleries. And there weren't even that many of them, I don't think. In Los Angeles, there was just a handful, and sometimes I feel like there's even less now. And I think now we've started actually looking at maybe more traditional fine art galleries as well. And
yeah, but also it's like a lot of the pictures that you see here came from Europe. I mean, originally I'm from Holland, and we travel regularly back and forth, and we got to know a lot of the galleries in Berlin and Munich and Paris, and then of course in London as well. And that's where you really have to make a gigantic search effort to really find something these days. You know, you cannot just go to it blindly and hope to run into something. And there are certain people, especially in Germany, who have this, you know, once in a while they have still this little secret stash in the back that they don't want to sell, like to keep for themselves. And that's the kind of pictures you want to get to. And it takes a lot of convincing, a lot of talking, and a lot of going back and forth before. This comes from Rudolf Kick, and he never wanted to sell this, and his wife, especially not his wife. And so just by going there year after year after year, they finally figured out we are serious collectors and why we wanted to have it. And that to me is like, relationships with galleries to me are as important as relationships with auction houses as well. I mean, like if we buy regularly also from little auction houses in Germany, because once in a while there might be a little gem in there, and it takes a lot of work, and you get to know the people. And then there's Jennifer here, and I have all those ladies there who they work for those companies, and they give you, and I want that you feel that the feedback I get from them I can trust because I met them before, talked to them, and that's kind of exciting. And the same with Sotheby's and Christie's, it's important that you know somebody there who you can talk to and who knows what you're collecting and you could trust. But there has been a big change happening over, as we all know, it's the last basically 20 years almost, where there's two kinds of collecting and two kinds of markets that are right now taking place. It's like, it is this market that is, you know, with incredible iconic highlights. And then there's the more decorative market, which actually gets those prices are as high as this market, but it is a different type of photography. It is it's a non-dangerous photography. It's pictures where you can look at and be happy with it, and you don't have to think about it. In most of the photographs that we collect, they're more daring. There's a lot of abstract work in there. I mean, the Funkes is purely abstract, and a lot of the Steiners and a lot of the Bauhaus that we have. And the market has completely split in regards in photography. And I feel that it is very hard to get this type of work and extremely easy to get the other market, and for which you still pay a fortune. And unfortunately, I think it has to do a little bit with a lot of the galleries are selling those great pictures now because first of all, they can sell them, and people are willing to pay for it, but they're very easy for the eye, and it is, to me, it always feels like they start to look a little bit like absolutely gorgeous wallpaper, and not in a negative way, but that's what they are. I mean, it's like, if you see those beautiful landscapes, like, oh my God, man, I mean, there's cameras that have 60 million pixels, and where everything is sharp to the tiniest detail. It's fantastic, but at the same time, I could not look at that for more than the 10 minutes I do it at the gallery. So what we kind of will collect, and which makes it harder and harder for us, is a little bit is like the images that you have to think about that are, and we also like to collect in depth, not like, so we don't give up, we don't buy a picture of a great artist, and then that's what we do, that's all we have about it. We want to really know more about it. We try to have I think an average of 20 or so. There's not a specific number, but we end up to be around that number for some reason. And then you get a sense of what those talented photographers actually stand for, because a few pictures really don't tell the story. And that, so those two markets are very distinct and kind of, they don't go together very much anymore. I think maybe you know more about that too.
No, I mean, I also just think there's so much more of everything. I think it's kind of quaint to think of us 20 years ago curled up on the couch with auction catalogs, all 4 of them, and a stack of Post-its, and spending a week just looking and looking and thinking, and now it's just not possible.
And I will say that when I had a pre-interview conversation with Jan and Trish, I immediately wrote down Jan's phrase, a non-dangerous picture, because I think that sums it up. How do you collect as a couple? How does that work?
I think Trish should do that.
Not to overstate my importance, because I think Jan is really the brains behind the operation, but surprisingly, I think 2 can work better than 1. I always say, if we were a car, Jan would be the accelerator and I would be the brakes. It's more fun to be the accelerator, but all collectors know what can happen when the brakes fail.
You're right.
I think dealers are always much happier to see the accelerator.
Yeah, sometimes.
And I apologize if that moniker sticks. But
that's what Trish is really good. She demands we go together. I'm not so much allowed to go by myself to galleries, and definitely not to auctions, because that would be. I actually have given up myself too, because when I see something that I really, really like, I feel it has to be us, it has to be ours. And it's hard to stop.
No, it's true. But I think at the end of the day, we both respect each other's opinion, and we both bring something different to the table. I think maybe I'm a little more open than I might have been without you, and well, you're working on becoming less impulsive.
And I'm just personally interested in this because you've got great Edward Westons, you've got great Triticals, you've got great Funkes, you've got great Du Bois, you've got great Franks, you've got Lang. Is there any division between those categories of work that you feel some pictures are more yours and some pictures are more yours, or is it mutual for everything?
Well, let me try to answer that. This thing is like, as we started to collect for so long, and there was a period of time that I could not get excited about any contemporary picture. I am so into the process of photography and into the working with chemicals and the physical approach of a photographer to his picture that there's nothing I could like, and especially I didn't like color pictures. But recently, there's a new group of photographers coming up, young photographers that kind of go back to that world, and like Matthew Brandt, John Chiara, and Lasseter, and what I like about that is that they are as curious as the old photographers again. They want to touch everything. They want to work with the chemicals. They put built their big cameras, put a reversal print in the back of the camera, walk through the front, focus it, and then hope it works. And then in the garage, they throw developer over the picture, and that's it. And I love that physical interaction with them. And they are so excited, that excitement that they represent is, to me, that started to pull me back towards modern photography. And we started recently, you saw earlier a couple of those works in one of the rooms. And that I feel I'm eager to collect now, and Trish is definitely less eager because they're all very big. And that's, we have the issue when you buy, a lot of modern work is so gigantic in scale that our biggest problem is always like, if you buy an image like that, and we always want to see it on the wall, at least for a while, that means you have to take 9 or 10 pictures away. And that decision, and of big photographers, so I cannot stand that we would have to take away Sudex for a $3,000 brand, and still we're doing it. And so then we always say, oh, well, they go to the storage room, they go to bed for a little bit, and then ultimately they will come back. I mean, we move our pictures around regularly. We kind of use our house as a little bit of a playground for showcasing to our visitors, and that's fun to do. But I right now I'm very much in favor of two things: the subjective camera and photoform, and the very modern contemporary photography.
Yeah, I think we disagree more about installation than actual work. I'm maybe a minimalist married to a maximalist, but I think at the end of the day, he doesn't want to hear me gripe about it, and I don't want to hear him gripe about it. So sometimes something will go up and one of us won't like it, and it doesn't stay up for very long.
And I should say, just to put a plug in, that there is a show at the Getty now of the type of photography that Jan was just talking about.
Yeah, it's a fantastic show. That's basically, it's all about process, and the Getty Photo Council that I'm chair of, we were able to buy a lot of those photographs in that particular show. So I personally am very proud of that, and if you have a chance to come to LA, you definitely should see it. It only went up last week, 2 weeks ago, and so it will be up for a couple of months. It is amazing to see what incredible new talent is out there that is trying to do something else and really is very emotionally involved in the picture, and not only in clicking the camera, but the whole thing from beginning to end, and the type of framing. And the framing itself is also a big issue for us. A picture is not a picture without a great frame. When I saw on the floor all those images laying on the floor in Sam Wexeff's room, loft, I thought, man, that's only half the picture there. Because a picture doesn't come alive until it is focused, until it has its matting, until it has its particular frame that it deserves. And only then you can judge the picture. You can, in my opinion, not judge an image just out of a box. It doesn't really work. And now I lost my thread a little bit.
No, you were talking about the Getty show.
Oh yeah, the Getty show. So that all those people there, they make their own frames as well, and that's what happened actually a long time ago. And every photographer made their own frames, and there's a picture here that we didn't talk about, like a Thomas Demant that we have a beautiful image of, and all those new. Is it on here? Oh, there you go. This particular one, and the frame, which weighs an absolute ton. I mean, it's like made of steel, I think, but that would fit it so perfect with the pictures, so you could never separate this anymore. And it's like, and I love it. I mean, most of the frames we have in our house, some of them are old, but they're all different. There's not a single duplicate in the framing wise. And we love that every picture really deserves and gets its own framing.
I think what I'd like to do is ask one more question of you guys, and then maybe take questions from the audience for Jan and Trish. I know this is a tried and true question, but I think it's important. What advice would you give to someone starting to form a collection today?
I think it's a cliche, but you buy what you love, and even if you paid too much for it and you regret that a little bit, you'll never regret having the image, with the passage of time.
I think there's, if I would start again, which I sometimes think about, I would start always at new modern young photography. That to me is like so exciting, and I feel like the same thrill with them as when we bought the first Westins or all the earlier Stieglitz, whatever. All those pictures that were great to have, and I feel like a collector. You have to have emotion. You have to start relating to that image. So every time we walk to the house, and one day I stop for one image, and it always is refreshing. And it's also really nice that you make pictures talk to each other. So you hang them together, you change the situation, how you put them in rooms, and it is fantastic. You can come to amazing discoveries that you would have never guessed of before. And that is, but now I'm starting to feel that with some of that new photography as well.
So could we have questions?
Absolutely. Maybe we'll put the lights up if we can. I don't know whether the guys are there. Great. Thank you, Sean. Thank you. Questions? Lots of questions?
Hi, I was just wondering what made you start your collection at 1900 rather than end it at 1900, or rather than start from the beginning and go all the way?
That's actually a really good question, and I was already, of course, very aware of the new modernism that was taking place all over the world in the 20s. But I felt that modernism wouldn't mean anything without seeing the pictorial part before it, because most of the photographers that belong to that grouping, they all started as pictorialists. Funke too, and Weston. I mean, almost all the big names started initially as pictorial photographers, so I thought that would be a perfect beginning. And after that, it started changing dramatically and kept changing, of course, all the way to the present day.
I know that Sudik photographed early on in his career a lot of sort of early Gothic sculpture from some of the cathedral in Prague. And I know this is not an area that is highly sought after, but I wonder, how do you view that as a collector of Sudik, and does this early work of his represent sort of a seminal creation of his later on views, or how does it fit into his later aesthetic work?
Well, first of all, we have some of those pictures, but we didn't have time to show all of them. But I think it is a very important part of his overall work, and same as his panoramic views of Prague. But still, once you visited the room, his little house that he had in the back of an apartment complex, and all the pictures that ultimately started making him famous are basically pictures that were made in that particular room, including the one with the brass and the shell, and the window pictures, the rainy pictures, looking out. That was all. I felt that his life is basically made out of that room. So I felt that is the core of his work, and that's where we have most of his work. But he also, there's some of the panoramic views that are absolutely fantastic, and the cathedral series, which is kind of a monumental series for following the reconstruction of the cathedral for that long a period. It's like almost over 25 years.
Any questions? Can you pass it down to him?
I have a question that's also a predictable question, which is, how do you know when your collection is over? In other words, Sam Wagstaff stopped collecting, he sold it, he collected something else. So is there a plan, or is there a point at which you decide, I'm giving it, I'm selling it, I'm moving to something else? Do you just deal with that? Do you have a project, or is it just intuitive as you move along?
I think that'll happen slowly. I mean, we do consider a plan, and I think I'm just too young to think about it right now.
So it won't happen for quite a while. No,
and we have children that are interested in a certain amount of it, but I think at this point in time, the thought that we would just leave it to our children is out of the question. I think it would actually be considered a burden. I think it's just too much, but we have slowly started donating. I don't know, I think we're just going to have to wait and see.
but it's really hard because if you, like, right now, get so excited about that no photography, I mean, that's just the beginning now. I mean, like, I don't know where it will end up, but I'm as excited now as some of the first pictures, so.
Especially at the beginning, were you preoccupied about how to store them or how to preserve the photos and not let them lie in the sun or so?
No, we don't let them lie in the sun. No, our house is it's triple treated. So every window has not only UV but also has neutral density, so you can set the settings. And in addition, of course, we have electric shades on the outside so that we can
And interior shades.
and interior shades, so we can totally. Because I'm too aware, I would be ashamed to see it, because some of them are super high quality and and some of them are unique pictures, and they should never get lost or get damaged. And the storage space, we have also storage space, of course, and that is pretty full. But that is everything is kept at the right temperature, the right humidity. So no, we are very aware. We are very aware of how to take care, because they're our friends. You know, they're not like, you really take care of them.
Other questions? Well, if you'll join me in thanking the Devants for giving us